Imagine a place where teenagers grab guns not out of choice, but because they're starving. A place where war tore families apart and hope felt like a distant dream. That was Burkina Faso just a few years ago. But what if I told you those same kids, former fighters, are now planting crops, feeding villages, and rebuilding a nation? Sounds impossible, right? Stick with me, because this story will blow your mind. In the next 30 minutes, you'll see how a war-torn country found peace by giving its rebels a new purpose. You'll learn lessons we can use right here in America to heal our communities. And you'll discover a blueprint for hope that's inspiring the world from Africa to the UN. This story is special. It'll make you want to plant some seeds of change in your own life. Think about it. If your hometown was falling apart and you got one shot to start over, what would you do? Ever seen someone turn their life around against all odds? Drop their story in the comments. I'd love to hear it, but first, let's dive into the heart of this incredible journey. Once upon a time, in a corner of West Africa called Burkina Faso, war wasn't just about bullets. It was about despair, tearing a nation's heart apart. Thousands of young guys, some as young as 16 or 17, picked up guns not to be heroes, but because they had no other choice. Poverty, no jobs, no future places like the Sahel, once peaceful villages turned into war zones where laws vanished and fear ruled everything. But what pushed these guys into violence? And more importantly, what pulled them out of the darkness? Picture living in a place where the soil is rich, but brutal droughts steal everything away. The UN says droughts in the Sahel spiked 30% over the last decade, turning fields into dusty deserts. Colonialism left a legacy of inequality, with 40% of young people jobless, no schools, no hope. Kofi, a 17-year-old kid from Bam, a province once at the heart of violence, grew up watching his family's crops die in droughts. No schools, no opportunities. Kofi joined an armed group not for some grand cause, but because he needed to survive. In 2022, over 2,000 people died in Sahel attacks, and 1.5 million had to flee their homes, according to international aid reports. It's like American veterans coming back from war feeling abandoned, wandering with no purpose. But in Burkina Faso, it's about survival. Other countries like Mali thought sending in troops would fix it. But what happened? Violence jumped 25% because they only put out surface fires, never touching the roots. Poverty, despair, and feeling forgotten. Think about Kofi for a second. He wasn't a bad guy, just a kid backed into a corner. He wanted a future, but all he had was a gun. Kofi's story isn't just about Burkina Faso. It's about any community, even in America, where young people feel like no one cares. The biggest mistake past leaders made was thinking guns could solve everything. They were wrong. You can't shoot poverty. You can't bomb despair. Here's the lesson. Real peace only comes when you give people a reason to live, a chance to dream, and a way to get back up after they fall. So what happens when someone sees guys like Kofi not as enemies, but as the future of a nation? Ever wonder how one leader can change an entire country? Drop a comment below. What do you think makes a broken community come back to life? I'd love to hear your story. But right now, let's meet the guy who saw hope in the middle of chaos coming right up. Then one day, in the middle of Burkina Faso's storm of war and despair, a man stepped up not with guns or empty promises, but with a bold vision. Captain IbrahimTraoré, a young leader, looked at guys like Kofi, the ones holding rifles, and saw what no one else did, not enemies, but the future of a nation. He said, Peace doesn't come from bullets. It comes from bread, from purpose. He called it the bread before bullets philosophy. But how do you turn fighters into farmers? You'll be shocked at how he did it. Traore wasn't like past leaders who borrowed millions from foreign banks, hired overseas companies for flashy projects, only to leave behind debt and broken dreams. The African Union says 60% of aid projects in the Sahel fail because they don't reach the people who need them most. Traore saw this, and he refused to follow that old playbook. Instead of cracking down on guys like Kofi, he thought, if I give them land tools and a reason to dream, they'll rebuild this country. Think about Traore's childhood friend. Joined an armed group after his family lost everything in a drought. Traore met him years later, didn't judge, but asked, "If I give you land and a shot at a new life, would you take it?" Nodded. That was the moment Traore realized peace isn't about defeating enemies. It's about giving them a reason to drop their guns. In America, it's like a mayor looking at kids in gangs and saying, "Let's make them entrepreneurs, not prisoners." But Traore did this on a national scale. He didn't just talk the talk. He launched a bold plan called the Green Reintegration Initiative to turn former fighters into farmers, betting his country's future on this idea. The biggest mistake many leaders make is seeing only problems, not potential. Traore was different. He saw guys like not as threats, but as untapped strength. Here's the lesson. Great leaders don't fight people. They fight hopelessness. By giving young people purpose, Traore didn't just save them, he saved a nation. So what happens when you give a former fighter land instead of a rifle? Ever think a simple idea could transform a whole country? Drop a comment below. Have you seen someone turn adversity into opportunity? I'd love to hear your story. But right now, let's see how Traore made that vision real with a plan that's turning heads worldwide coming right up. Back then in Burkina Faso, when guys like Kofi put down their guns, they didn't just walk away from war. They stepped into a new journey, one that turned barren fields into lifelines. That's when the Green Reintegration Initiative was born, a bold plan to turn 8,000 former fighters into farmers, not just feeding themselves, but entire communities. They were given land tools and knowledge not to hold rifles but to plant seeds. But how do you teach someone who only knew how to shoot a gun to grow crops? The secret lies in a simple yet powerful idea. This program isn't just handing out land and saying good luck. It's like an open-air school where former fighters learn everything from soil prep irrigation to running a small farm business. Think about Kofi, a guy who once only knew how to handle a rifle, now learning to wield a hoe, plant rice, and even calculate profits. According to the UN, 80% of fighters in this program had steady incomes within a year. They're not just growing crops, they're growing hope. Picture meeting Kofi in Bam, where he now has a small plot of land. Every morning he heads to his field, checks the irrigation system, and smiles as he sees his rice starting to bloom. He told me I used to bring fear. Now I bring food. That's not just Kofi's story, it's the story of thousands. In America, it's like programs helping veterans reintegrate. But here, it's a revolution turning destroyers into builders. Many reintegration programs fail because they teach theory without giving land or capital. Burkina Faso did it differently. They gave Kofi a plot, a small loan for seeds, and a team of experts to guide him. Here's the lesson. If you want to change someone, don't just give them a job. Give them a chance to be proud, to feel like they belong somewhere. So what happens when you turn thousands of former fighters into organized farmers, working like a real army? Ever seen an idea transform a whole community? Drop your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. But right now, Let's dive into how Burkina Faso turned these farmers into an agricultural army, coming right up. One day in Burkina Faso, as former fighters like Kofi started planting seeds in the fields, they weren't just growing crops, they were building an army not to fight, but to feed a nation. That's when the Agro Battalions were born, agricultural units organized like a military with discipline, clear goals, and a mission to turn barren lands into thriving fields. They grow rice, millet, tomatoes, and more with yields 30% higher than regular farms. But how do you turn guys who once held guns into a professional farming army? The secret lies in unprecedented organization and support. Agro battalions aren't just random groups of farmers. They work like a real army, with a command structure, clear roles, and a team spirit. Every day, Kofi and his crew wake up at dawn, check solar-powered water pumps, and work under the guidance of agricultural experts. Government reports say these units supply 15% of the food for Burkina Faso's schools and army. They're not just growing crops, they're creating a self-sustaining system from field to table. Picture meeting Kofi in an agro battalion in Bam. He used to plan ambushes, now he plans planting schedules, checks soil health, and beams with pride seeing his tomatoes sold at the market. He says, "I used to destroy. Now I build." In America, it's like veterans working in urban farms. But here, it's an agricultural revolution on a national scale. Agronomists teach them how to fight pests. Engineers build cutting-edge irrigation, and tech like drones tracks their crops. Many farm projects fail due to poor organization or lack of support, like 60% of projects in Chad left abandoned. Agro battalions succeed by blending military discipline with modern science. Here's the lesson. With the right structure and support, anyone can become an expert no matter their past. So what happens when you give these farmers not just land, but a sense of belonging? Ever seen a team transform a community? Drop your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. But right now, let's dive into how Burkina Faso gave guys like Kofi a piece of land and a whole lot of pride coming right up. Every day in Burkina Faso, as former fighters, like Kofi plant seeds in their own soil, they're not just growing crops, they're growing pride, a sense of belonging to a place, a community. That's when the Soil to Sovereignty program was born, a plan that doesn't just hand out land to former fighters, but gives them dignity, a piece of a bigger dream for a self-reliant nation. Every plot of land is a promise that they're no longer outcasts, but builders of the future. How can a piece of land change an entire life? The answer lies in the deeper meaning of ownership. The Soil to Sovereignty program isn't just about giving out land. It's a commitment that every former fighter like Kofi gets a place to call home, a place to build a future. According to Burkina Faso's government, over 10,000 hectares of land have been distributed, creating jobs for 20,000 people. Kofi got a small plot in Bam, along with seeds tools and a small loan to start. He learned to grow millet-raised chickens, and now his kids go to school. He says, "This land isn't just dirt, it's my new life." Picture meeting Kofi standing on his plot, watching his millet grow tall. He's no longer the guy who scared his village. Now villagers buy his millet, and he grins as he talks about his dream of building a new house. In America, it's like the American dream, where owning a home or land brings security pride. But in Burkina Faso, it's a way to heal the wounds of war, to bring guys like Kofi back into the community. Many land programs fail because they hand out plots without support. Burkina Faso did it differently, pairing land with training and capital. Here's the lesson. Ownership isn't just a gift. It's a responsibility, a chance for someone to feel valued, to feel like they belong somewhere. So what happens when you give thousands of people this chance and then turn them into part of a bigger system? Ever seen someone find purpose through a small opportunity? Drop your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. But right now, let's dive into how Burkina Faso opened doors for even those who seemed forgotten, coming right up. Every day in Burkina Faso, as former fighters like Kofi reclaim their pride on their own land, another group people once locked behind bars are given a shot to rebuild their lives. That's when the Prisoners to Farmers program was born. A bold plan, letting inmates cut their sentences by working on state farms, learning agricultural skills, and becoming part of the community. This isn't just a job, it's a path to finding purpose again. How can someone who made mistakes become someone who feeds a community? The secret lies in giving them a real second chance. This program isn't just labor for a shorter sentence, it's a school for the future. Inmates work on farms learning to grow vegetables, care for soil, and manage crops. For every month of hard work, they shave 3 months off their sentence. Government reports say 500 prisoners joined and 40% of them don't re-offend after release. They're not just learning skills, they're rediscovering their worth, going from outcasts to food providers. Picture meeting Ama, a 28-year-old inmate in BAM. He thought his life was over in prison, but through the program, Ama learned to grow tomatoes and raise chickens. He cut 2 years off his sentence and now runs a vegetable stall at the local market. Ama says, "I used to be a burden. Now I'm the guy bringing food home." In America, it's like work release programs. But here it's a revolution, turning prisoners into farm entrepreneurs. Many rehabilitation programs fail because they focus on punishment, not real skills. Burkina Faso did it differently, giving Ama a purpose, a skill, and a way back to society. Here's the lesson. A second chance isn't charity, it's an investment in people, so they can stand up and contribute. So what happens when these changes ripple out from fields to markets, from individuals to whole communities? Ever seen someone turn their life around with a small opportunity? Drop your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it, but right now, let's dive into how these changes brought an entire community back to life. Coming right up. Every day in Burkina Faso, as former fighters and inmates like Kofi and Ama work the fields, something miraculous happens, not just in the soil, but in the markets, the villages, and the hearts of communities. The Green Reintegration and Agro Battalions aren't just growing crops. They're planting seeds for new life, from barren battlefields to bustling markets. Violence dropped 38%. Local markets are thriving, and people are coming home carrying hope. How can fields heal an entire community? The secret lies in the ripple effect of every seed planted. Picture walking into a market in BAM where fear used to shut things down by noon. Now it's open till 9 p.m., alive with laughter music and stalls full of Kofi and Ama's vegetables. Government reports say exports of crops like cashews and yams jumped 22%, bringing in cash for schools and clinics. Over 1.5 million people who fled the war are coming back, rebuilding homes and chasing their dreams again. It's like neighborhoods in America, like Detroit, where urban farming revived communities, but here, it's a whole nation coming back to life. Think about Awa, a mom in BAM. She used to be scared to buy food because markets weren't safe. Now she buys tomatoes from Ama, chatting with him like a friend. These small transactions aren't just trade, they're reconciliation, rebuilding trust. Food prices dropped 15%, letting families like Awa's send their kids to school. This isn't just about food, it's about a community finding connection again. Many countries overlook the power of local economies, leaning on foreign aid and failing. Burkina Faso did it differently, letting its people drive the change. Here's the lesson. Peace isn't just stopping bullets. It's when communities grow together, from markets to schools, from fields to hearts. So what happens when you face challenges to keep these changes alive? Ever seen a community rise from the ashes? Drop your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. But right now, let's dive into the challenges Burkina Faso faced to keep this flame of hope burning, coming right up. Every day, as Burkina Faso's markets buzzed and fields turned green, the journey to build peace faced huge challenges. That's when a story of grit was written, with obstacles from doubt, lack of skills to unexpected setbacks. But through determination and creativity, Burkina Faso turned these challenges into opportunities, keeping the dream of a self-reliant nation alive. How do you keep a revolution going when everything seems stacked against you? The secret lies in facing hardship head-on. When the Green Reintegration and Agro Battalions started, not everyone was on board. Government reports say 30% of former fighters quit early, doubting farming could change their lives. Lack of skills was a big hurdle. Many had never used solar-powered pumps. Then, sudden storms wiped out newly planted crops. But Burkina Faso didn't give up. They held town halls to rebuild trust, trained 500 local technicians in a flash, and used the military to deliver supplies, overcoming every obstacle. Picture meeting Kofi in Bam as he tells you about the time his water pump broke. He thought it was over, but a local engineer showed up, taught him how to fix it, and Kofi became the go-to guy for his team. It's like American startups like Tesla, stumbling early but pushing through with grit. In Burkina Faso, every challenge became a lesson. From fixing pumps to convincing communities peace was possible. Many countries give up when things get tough, like 70% of irrigation projects in Niger failing due to no follow-through. Burkina Faso did it differently, seeing each setback as a chance to learn and grow. Here's the lesson. Success doesn't come from dodging challenges. It comes from facing them and pushing through one step at a time. So what happens when these lessons inspire beyond Burkina Faso's borders? Ever overcome a challenge that seemed impossible? Drop your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. But right now, let's dive into how this story became a model for the world coming right up. Every day, as Burkina Faso's fields turn green and communities grow closer, this story of transformation starts to echo beyond its borders, sparking inspiration across the world. That's when Burkina Faso became a model not just for neighbors like Mali and Niger, but for places like America, where communities are searching for ways to heal and rebuild. This story shows peace and self-reliance are possible even in the toughest circumstances. How can a small West African nation become a blueprint for the world? The secret lies in turning lessons into real action. The Green Reintegration and Agro Battalions didn't just change Burkina Faso, they caught the world's attention. The UN calls it the most holistic peace model in the Sahel, with Mali planning to train 3,000 former fighters based on this approach. In America, where 50,000 homeless veterans struggle to reintegrate, this program offers a new idea: give them land skills and purpose. Think about Detroit, where urban farming revived neighborhoods. Burkina Faso's doing that on a national scale, proving peace starts by giving people a chance. Picture meeting Awa, a mom in Bam, now working with a farming co-op run by former fighters. She says, "I used to think they were dangerous. Now they're my neighbors feeding my kids." Awa's story isn't just about Burkina Faso, it's about any community wanting to heal. Many countries copy models without adapting to local culture, like a project in Chad that failed by ignoring people's needs. Burkina Faso succeeded by putting people first, using local resources, and building trust. Here's the lesson. A great idea can change everything if you tailor it to the heart and culture of a community. So what happens when you dream bigger? Not just for one community, but for an entire nation. Ever seen an idea transform a whole region? Drop your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. But right now, let's dive into the future. Vision for Burkina Faso. A nation rewriting its destiny. Coming right up. And so, at last, in Burkina Faso, as fields turn green and markets brim with life, a new vision is taking shape, not just of a nation that feeds itself, but a beacon of hope for Africa and beyond. The story of turning fighters into farmers, battlefields into farmlands, isn't just about the past or present. It's a bold dream for the future where Burkina Faso feeds its people, exports food, and inspires the world. How can a nation once torn by war dream so big? The secret lies in planting seeds of hope, not just in the soil, but in people's hearts. Picture 2035. Burkina Faso aims to export 150,000 tons of food, feeding 5 million people across the Sahel, according to government plans. Former fighters like Kofi and inmates like Ama are now farm entrepreneurs leading co-ops and teaching others. Bam Village, once a war zone, now hosts harvest festivals where kids laugh and adults share dreams. It's like Japan's journey after World War II, from ruins to a powerhouse, but here it's a story of peace and self-reliance. The numbers back it up. Agricultural GDP jumped 18% in 3 years per economic reports. Think about Awa the mom in Bam. She doesn't just buy vegetables from Kofi anymore. She works in a co-op teaching other women to farm. She says, "I thought my kids would grow up in war. Now I see a future for them." Many countries stall after early wins, losing momentum, like projects in Mali that fizzled out. Burkina Faso did it differently, building a lasting system from trade schools to local markets. Here's the lesson. Plant seeds today, not just for crops, but for peace, and you'll harvest a lasting future. So what's next for a nation that rewrote its destiny? Ever seen a big dream come true? Drop your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. And if you want to keep up with inspiring stories like this, hit subscribe and ring that bell, because the next story will keep you hooked, coming right up.